All right, everybody, and welcome back. It's your host, Josh Wilson, here of the Inside Out Sports Podcast. It's been a long break, but I'm glad to be back on the podcast. Haven't really done anything since the end of February. I've kind of been on the road for work a little bit, and my wife is almost 37 weeks pregnant. So we've had a lot of things going on in the Wilson household. But nonetheless, it's great to be back on the podcast. I'm looking forward to kind of recording on a consistent basis again. I've also been kind of in this break, have been working on kind of a rebrand or a new direction for the show. And I can't wait to get that to you guys in the coming months. Hopefully it should be off the ground in the next 2 months. I would hope. I'm adding a co-host. I'm still going to have a sports feel to it. But, it's going to kind of start our own show, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's something that we've been talking about for a while, and we're working on getting some new equipment and, really, really taking it off the ground. So I'm really excited about that, and it should be a ton of fun. So it's going to be really cool to be able to kind of do the whole, host, co-host kind of thing and really, take it to another level is kind of my hope, my ideas. So we'll see what happens. It should be a ton of fun. So that's kind of what I've been up to lately. But hopefully it can be a little more consistent with the podcast episodes because I was having a ton of fun doing it before. Things got hectic there a little bit. And obviously this is not my full-time gig as much as I wish it was. It'd be kind of the lifestyle to live, wouldn't it? So hopefully, we can deliver something consistent and it should be fun. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Obviously, Indiana basketball's had a busy few weeks since the end of the season, a season that thankfully came to an end. Unfortunately, in the NIT, you hope to keep playing because I think games and like that and those experiences can really help a team, a coach, the entire program. It sucks that it ended the way it did, but I think most of us in the fan base were entirely glad that it was over. So ever since then, Romeo has announced that he's leaving for the NBA, which I think was to be expected. I don't see him coming back, and I wouldn't with the type of money that's going to be on the line for him. And that's, every basketball player's dream is to make it to that level. And if you have that opportunity, you should pursue it. Just as, any regular student, if they have a really good career opportunity before graduating, I would think we would all take that, given the kind of payroll Romeo is going to be receiving. So good for that young man. I'm glad he was a Hoosier for a year. I'm glad he decided to represent IU. I'm excited to see what he can do in the NBA. Hopefully he gets healthy, stays healthy, and can really do a lot of things on the floor in the professional ranks. So Juwan Morgan's obviously graduated. A couple of the walk-ons, Quentin Taylor, Johnny Jager, Zach McRoberts, and then our transfer Evan Fitzner have all graduated and are moving on. I would assume that Juwan's going to get some looks in the NBA, so that should be exciting as well. And I think if he could really develop an outside game, he can make a name for himself in the NBA or, just carve out a role, which I think, it's either superstar or role player, so you can't be too upset about that. But we've seen the likes of Justin Smith, Devontae Green, and I believe Al Durham as well have put their names kind of in that draft pool to get some feedback. And look, I think this should be an automatic thing for every underclassman. If you're not graduating, every college eligible player should be in that in kind of in that draft pool to where we're going to get some feedback from some NBA teams because that's every basketball player's dream is to play in the NBA. So why not get feedback? I mean, it's like a free job interview. So good for those guys. And hopefully they get some information that is worthwhile to them and to Indiana men's basketball. And hopefully it makes them a better player, and which in turn makes Indiana a better team next season, which I believe we're all hoping for. So to kind of catch up to speed where Indiana basketball is at, it's obviously been on the recruiting trail as well. Indiana basketball landed Joey Brunk. It's a transfer with immediate eligibility from Butler, Southport High School. We all know the name Joey Brunk if you pay attention to Indiana basketball at all. So he should be a good addition to the team. And I think he's going to be immediately eligible. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, so it should be a lot of fun to see how he integrates himself with the current roster. And then obviously we have the two incoming freshmen, Trace Jackson Davis, who was a McDonald's All-American, Indiana Mr. Basketball, Indiana All-Star as well, and then Armaan Franklin, who is also a finalist for Indiana Mr. Basketball, and he is an Indiana All-Star as well. So 3 guys from the state of Indiana all coming in this class, and it's Archie's doing exactly what he said he would do. So I think you have to be happy with that. So I'm eager to see how those guys really come in and mold themselves with this team. Obviously, I think Brunk and Trace Jackson Davis will kind of immerse themselves in the team right away. They're going to have, I think, more of an impact than Armaan does. But maybe it's hard to say that because Armaan Franklin may have an impact. 6'4", 6'5" guard. He's really improved his shooting. So I'll be eager to see what he can do. He could be this year's Rob Finney, if we're being honest. So it should be a good class, and I think Armaan is going to be a really good basketball player. And I'm heading down to Bankers Life Fieldhouse on June 8th to catch up and watch the Indiana All-Star team play against Kentucky All-Stars, which if you don't do, you should do that if you are in the Indiana area. It's a fun game to watch, and you get to watch some of the best players from the state. So the last couple of weeks, obviously Indiana, like I said, has been on the recruiting trail. They've missed out on a few key recruits, but I'm seeing some fans kind of lose their mind because people are saying no to Indiana. And Bill Self says, if you're being told no more than you're being told yes, you're on the right path. I mean, if you recruit everybody that says yes to you, you're probably not recruiting the right guys for the most part. It's okay to be told no. Ethan Morton, which had long seemed kind of like an Indiana lean to me, just with the vibes I was seeing from social media and reports, kind of seemed always like an Archie guy. Committed to Purdue Thursday afternoon. So it's one thing to lose a recruit. It's another to lose that recruit to Purdue. I'm sure he's going to be really solid for them. Matt Painter does really good with those type of guys. He's 6'5", 6'6" guard. All reports say he's more of a ball handler, defender, kind of like a Nojel Eastern. Doesn't really shoot the ball well. I've also seen people say he can shoot the ball well. He just hasn't been able to do that in high school because he's the best player on his team, so he attracts a lot of attention. So, it sucks to see him go to Purdue, but it's his choice. And, if he feels like Purdue's the best fit, then good for him. And Lester Quinones, who is a 2019 recruit, Indiana got in kind of late with. He was always figured to be a Memphis recruit. Memphis or LSU were kind of the two heavy favorites. And then Will Wade did his thing with the FBI scandal. But Lester Quinones committed to Memphis this past Friday. He certainly would have been helpful. He's pegged as a good shooter, and I've seen reports where he struggled on, I believe it was the EYBL circuit, the Nike circuit last year. So it's kind of hard to really, pinpoint what his strength was. And I think he's kind of been injured the last half of the year for IMG Academy. I watched a couple of their games, and I never saw him play. So certainly he would have helped, if he could stretch a floor, if he's as good of a shooter as people say he is. But, it's not the end of the world. So now the recruit was single-handedly going to save Indiana or take Indiana to where the fans want it to be next season, which on all accounts is pretty unrealistic. So let's pump the brakes a little bit. And, we got our team on the floor. My team is on the floor, like Norman Dale says. So let's see what the guys can do. And if Jerome Hunter's healthy, that fills a big gap as well. So lots kind of hanging in the balance of his health. But you got a lot of guys coming back. You're adding good new talent, so it's not going to be a lot of inexperienced pieces. So should be able to improve off that itself. Should be more balanced as well with the recruits that are coming in. So we'll see. Archie still's got 2 open scholarships, so he may nab a grad transfer that we just haven't talked about yet. We'll see what happens. We just don't know. It could be out of the air, kind of like Evan Fitzner was last year. So we'll see. I mean, there's 600 names on the transfer list. So there's only 300 schools in D1. So we'll see what happens. And then an official visit was scheduled, according to Jeff Rabjohns, by 2024 Matt Cross. He plays with BABC on the Nike EYBL circuit. He's out of Connecticut or Massachusetts. I can't I remember off the top of my head. But he's really seen his recruitment explode over the course of the spring since the AAU circuit began. He's kind of labeled as a scorer, big-time shooter. He's a 6'6" forward, so he would obviously fill a need for IU. And he appears to have some interest. And obviously, he's been offered a scholarship after that first evaluation period in April. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. And obviously, he was offered Anthony Lill from Bloomington South, and then Trey Galloway from Culver Academies up here in my neck of the woods in northern Indiana was also offered a scholarship by Archie Miller in the past couple of weeks. So there's going to be a lot going on. So let's just kind of see how it plays out. But I think Matt Cross is definitely a name to keep an eye on. We'll see if he can nab him out of the northeast part of the United States. So that's what's going on with Indiana basketball. College sports are kind of always a fluid situation, especially when it comes to recruiting. So we'll just kind of keep tabs with Rab Johns and the guys on the beat and see what happens and see, what Archie Miller can do to improve the roster, whether it's for this season or 2020 or 2021, which is going to be a huge class in the state of Indiana. A couple names to keep an eye on there. Christian Lander out of Evansville, Caleb First out of Fort Wayne are your two biggest. Should be, it should be a good class. And I think if IU can keep a couple guys in state there, that's going to be really, really good for Archie. So should be fun. And we'll see how that all pans out. So we'll move on kind of to the NBA. There's a couple games today, 3:30 Eastern time. You got Portland in Denver, Game 7, couple Game 7s today. And then after that on TNT is the Raptors playing host of the 76ers. The winner of that series gets to face the Milwaukee Bucks, who've just been running through the Eastern Conference. Thank goodness they beat the Boston Celtics because I can't stand Boston sports, and I was so happy to see a team from there finally lose. And then obviously the winner of that first game will join the Western Conference Finals and play against the Golden State Warriors, who beat the Houston Rockets the other night in Game 6 to move on. Just want it to be known, the Houston Rockets suck. Their brand of basketball is terrible. I hate the way James Harden and Chris Paul play, all the flopping, acting, trying to trick the refs. Just play basketball, man. You're good enough. Just play some damn basketball, because I think what these guys are showing the youth of America that aspire to be good basketball players is just terrible. Just play solid fundamental basketball. So that's just stop acting and all this flopping shit. It's awful. I hate watching it. I'm so glad they got beat. I don't want to see Golden State win again. I mean, they play a good brand of basketball. I think they are much better without Kevin Durant. But I'm so glad that they beat Houston Rockets. I hate that Eric Gordon's a part of that team because I like to see Hoosiers do well in the NBA. I just can't stand James Harden and Chris Paul. I just absolutely cannot stand them. So I'm glad that they got beat. Another guy that I'm not a big fan of, Kyrie Irving. He is not I want to say he's not an elite basketball player. He's a very good basketball player. Maybe I should say he's an elite basketball player, but he is not. He's not a leader. He's never going to be the star on an NBA championship team. He's going to have to beat, he's going to have to be alongside LeBron James or Kevin Durant or whoever. He can't be Batman. He's got to be Robin, because we've seen him try to be Batman this year, and the Celtics fell flat on their face, unfortunately, after they swept my Pacers. But I think if Victor Oladipo is playing in that series, it's a different outcome. Pacers just didn't have a go-to guy on the level, like an all-star level, much like you have to have that kind of guy in the playoffs. So, but I was so happy to see Kyrie Irving and the Celtics fall flat on their faces after after beating my Indiana Pacers. Watching the Bucks just take it to him after losing Game 1 was awesome. Should be a fun Final Four when they get down to it. So I really want to see Portland and Golden State face off in the Western Conference. I think just with how, the dominant guard play in that series would be just an awesome, awesome, awesome thing to watch. So I'm definitely looking forward to that and see how that plays out. Should be a couple good basketball games on today. I'm recording this early afternoon on Mother's Day, so those games will be coming up here in a few hours, so it should be a ton of fun to watch. So speaking of something that's not a ton of fun to watch, my St. Louis Blues got their ass kicked last night by the San Jose Sharks in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in the NHL playoffs. My Blues, man, they beat the Winnipeg Jets and 6 in the first round. Then they beat the Dallas Stars in double overtime of Game 7. What a crazy game that was. And then last night they lost Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. After being in last place on January 3rd, the Blues have stormed back, and they're in the Western Conference Finals. So, San Jose just kind of looked like the more prepared. I don't know if I want to say desperate, but they had more urgency. Give credit to them. They were balling out, and you could tell there were two different teams on the ice last night. And unfortunately, my Blues were not the team with the upper hand. But also give credit to the Blues because they didn't quit. They gave up an empty netter at the end, but they kept fighting. That's what I love about that team. And hopefully, Game 2 is tomorrow night, Monday night on I think it's on NBC at 9 Eastern. So it's a late drop of the puck, but hopefully they can bounce back and steal one on the road. I think as desperate or urgent as San Jose looked last night, St. Louis got some very unlucky bounces and whistles in that game. I think they had 3 penalties in the first period, and those were the first penalties against the Blues since Game 6 against the Dallas Stars. So that's a long time to go without, a penalty. But they were certainly kind of out of their groove last night. So I'm hoping to see them kind of bring that back tomorrow night in Game 2, and steal one, go back to St. Louis 1-1 with the San Jose Sharks. So on the other side of the bracket in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Bruins lead the Carolina Hurricanes. Unfortunately, 1-0 in that Eastern Conference series. Game 2 is today. I believe the puck drops at about 3 p.m., coming up here in about an hour or so. Go Hurricanes, like I said, because I want to see every Boston team lose until the end of the time. Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox, don't care. Any Boston team, you got to lose. Can't stand them. So go Hurricanes. I love hockey, the hockey playoffs. Shout out to my good friend Matt Willett. He is an athletic trainer for the Fort Wayne Comets. It's kind of the Double-A team for the Vegas Golden Knights. But ever since he took that over, I've really gotten into hockey. I've been able to watch games in person, which there's just nothing like it. But playoff hockey is unbelievable. Some of these games are absolutely crazy, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch these guys play. So we'll round out today's episode talking about my St. Louis Cardinals, who I'm going to St. Louis next month. I got a suite. A game they play against the Angels, so I'm going to really enjoy that. The Cardinals were hot in the month of April. They were 18-7 in the month. They were 22-18 overall. They've kind of slid a little bit. They were first in the Central coming out of April, I believe. Like I said, they've slid a little bit. They're 22-18. They're 2.5 games back of the Cubs in the Central, and the Brewers are just ahead of them as well. So they got a home game today against the Pittsburgh Pirates. First pitch should be coming out here shortly. So I love baseball. It's hard to watch on TV sometimes, but I'm very excited to get over to Busch Stadium, check out downtown St. Louis. Hopefully there's a Stanley Cup celebration going on while I'm over there as well. Hopefully my Blues can bring it home. So, but hey, I appreciate everybody listening in. It's glad to be back on the podcast. Like I said, I'm kind of working. I'm going to bring a co-host on. We're going to kind of expand the show, not necessarily take it in a new direction, but we are going to rebrand it. It is going to be a ton of fun, and I cannot wait for that to happen. That should be coming in about less than 2 months. But until then, I'm going to keep on the mic as well, talking everything sports related, Indiana Hoosiers as well specifically. But I always keep track of my teams and talk that over as well. So I'm really excited to see what Archie Miller and staff kind of does on the recruiting trail coming up. A lot of big names out there. Indiana basketball is a 365, 24/7 type deal. And, fans are always kind of over the edge with it, unfortunately. I think everybody's just starving for consistent success. And I think it's coming. We can't beg for something and not have instant gratification and then bring the pitchforks and the fire out just to make a change again. And then you got to start all the way back from ground zero. So let's give Archie some time. I think he's got the right mentality. He's on the right path. But look, it takes time. It really does. And I think with what he's trying to build it, you just can't build it overnight. So pretty excited about what he's doing. I'm excited about the recruits that we have coming in. I cannot wait to see this team play. I'm not sure what to expect. We'll see what happens in the summer. There's a lot of variables out there still. The health of Ron Davis, the health of Jerome Hunter, and the improvements of Devontae Green, Al Durham, Justin Smith. So Demezy Anderson as well. You can throw him in there. Race Thompson, if he's healthy, I think he can be a big factor. A lot of variables, a lot of parts on that roster that I'm eager to see and how it plays out. So, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. And fellas, if you're on here, make sure to tell your wife, your mother, grandmother, tell them Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day. It's their day. Every day should be their day. They're so they're so important to our success as young men and into life. So make sure to give them the gratitude that they deserve, not only today, but every day. And I will talk to you all soon.